Hello everybody, Shinjo here, welcome back to the channel, and a little video that I wanted to make. I don't know how long it's going to be because I don't have any notes written out, but since we're in a period where the last arc of Horizons ended and there's going to be a new arc coming on the 22nd, I want to take some time in between that to discuss how I feel about Horizons at the moment. And I did already discuss this for Let's Talk Anime before. I don't know how long it's been, but I was initially going to discuss this alongside two other topics in Let's Talk Anime, but I wanted to give those other two topics time to process my thoughts, especially since I've only seen a couple of episodes of each one. So this is going to be a standalone episode on how I feel about Horizons at the moment, just before we get into this next arc. So, I don't entirely remember what I discussed with the show before, to be honest. It might have been a long time ago, might have been before the time skip happened. But I'm probably gonna focus more as far as the time skip moving forward. And obviously there's gonna be spoilers for it, so if you haven't caught up to Horizons, I would highly recommend you either catch up to it or save this video for later, whatever you want to do. So first thing I'm going to discuss is each individual character, and by that I mean Liko, Roy, Dot, and Ult, because the rest of the Rising Voltacklers don't really do much. There's an episode each about getting them back on the airship, and then Freed is freed. I can get to that later, but I guess it's fair to start with Liko. I still really like Liko. She doesn't feel as a background character as she did before, because it just kind of felt like she was here and it's like, okay, I have this thing to do with Pagogo, guess I'm gonna do it. It didn't really feel like it felt like she was much different from Ash, which I suppose in a way is good, but she does have really good moments, like for example, the episode where Hatrem evolves. I really like that one because it gives her more of a bond with Hatrem. And then, of course, her fight with Spinel at the end of the arc was really satisfying because it helped her put her foot down for starters. And second of all, the fact that Spinel's done so many things to her, especially brainwashing, taking her pendant. The fact that she was able to fight back against Spinel was really satisfying. And as far as her team, I guess it's fine. Meowscarada makes sense. A fully evolved starter makes a lot of sense. I guess Hatrem was next. I guess I should talk about Pagogo as well. Pagogo's fine. It just feels like a situation where character A says something, and then Liko says, yeah, we should do X, Y, and Z and whatever. And then Pagogo just has to chime in every single time. In a way, this is going to sound bad to say, but in a way, I'm kind of glad Pagogo's gone because it just feels like there's moments where he just randomly says something along the sidelines. Of course, the story wouldn't have made as much sense if it wasn't there, but in a way, it just feels like Pagogo is supposed to be a mascot character of sorts, and I don't know, the story might get better, the story might get worse without it gone. I'll just have to see. Jumping back to Hatterene. Hatterene is fine. I would have preferred it if it stayed as a Hatrem, because I like Hatrem more than Hatterene, but it gives her another fully evolved Mon. And there's something else she has, right? I mean, I know the one. Is it just Armarouge? Well, I guess counting Pagogo, that's another Mon. Yeah, I think it's just those three. Yeah, I mean, the Charcadet, it was obvious she was going to get it because it had a bond with Pagogo before. But there's another problem with Charcadet to Armarouge that I'll get into later. Overall, it's fine. I really like Armarouge's design, so I'm not too upset. But I just felt it happened a little bit too quickly. But I'll touch on that later. And then as for Roy, I mean, what's his name? What's the middle Evo's name? It's Fuecoco. Crocolore. Crocolore to Skeledirge makes sense. Personally, I would have done it when he battled Rhyme earlier in the series, But I suppose battling Drayton makes sense as well. Kilowattrel, I'm surprised it's actually getting more spotlight now, which I'm happy about. Because it just felt like Roy's battling, okay, time to use Fuecoco, time to use Crocolore, and then Kilowattrel just gets the shaft. Which I'm really glad they did touch on that when he did the double battle against Drayton, because Kilowattrel took the hit and then Fuecoco basically said, I'm gonna carry on, I'm gonna avenge him, and nonsense like that, and then he evolved. That was really cool. What did he... Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Lucario. So, I will say, at the start of this, when Roy just happened to get a shiny Mega Lucario, I'm here thinking, okay, that's a bit odd, and we get no backstory on it? Okay, sure. And then, halfway through the series, oh yeah, I never told you about how I got my Lucario, which... That's a nice callback to Roy being more like Freed now. But still, it's like you present us this superpowered Mega Lucario, not really given much backstory, and that's it. It almost felt like a rehash of Ash's Lucario because it was another character that didn't really get much personality. But I do like how they incorporated Roy getting Mega Lucario Z. That was really cool. But personally, what I would have thought would have been better, now this is just me in hindsight knowing what happens in the story, is give him a Pokemon. I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, it doesn't really make sense for his team, but let's just say he gets a Meowstic in between the time skip arc. They go through everything, it's just a Meowstic. And then right before they're doing their training arc and everything and Mayonnaise returns, he says, oh yeah, your Meowstic can Mega Evolve. Here, take this Mega Stone. And do something like that instead. Because at least with that, we get a time of learning about the Meowstic's character and stuff like that. Rather than, it's a Mega Lucario, it's super powerful. Especially since the last character in the series, the previous series, had a Mega Lucario. It just feels a little bit shoehorned in just because it's a Lucario. Heck, I would have been fine if it was Absol, personally. But I suppose that makes more sense for a Methio. But, I guess that's it for him. I think that's all the mods he has. I'm not counting Cap, because he really didn't use it to battle. Yeah, that's about it. Then Dot. Quaquaval, it's fine. I'm still not too wild on Quaquaval's design. But I really only like the Quaxley part of the line. But it makes sense that it's fully evolved. First time that all three starters have been Mega Evolved, or fully evolved, in probably a while. Because let's see, it didn't happen in Gen 8, didn't happen in Gen 7. Technically it happened in Gen 6, it just happened after the show ended, but I'm splitting hairs at this point. Yeah, Quaquaval, fine. What's the other mon? Oh yeah, Tinkaton. Tinkaton is really good. I really enjoy Tinkaton. It may be just because I like the line in general, but I really like it. The fact that it evolves both times while banging its hammer is really a really nice touch. And then we come to Gholdengo. So I wasn't really keen on Dot getting Gimmighoul in the first place. It just feels kind of shoehorned in, like, oh yeah, you look up to this Gholdengo that's randomly surfing here. I understand that. I feel the same way about Iono. That's okay. It just feels like a little bit of a random reason for her to get Gimmighoul. But then when it evolves, it just happens too quickly. But again, I'll touch on that after I touch on Ult's team. So Ult, he's fine. I actually really like his character. I wasn't as keen on him at first because he just comes off as rude. But now I realize he's just a little gremlin that doesn't play by anybody's rules. And his Sableye makes sense as his first partner. I'm assuming his first partner. I don't know if he gets the Sableye first or the Dragonite first. I don't think they really touched on that. The Dragonite, it's fine. Again, it's another situation where they're building up this Dragonite and he can Mega Evolve. Just in time for ZA. But yeah, the Dragonite's fine. The build up to it at first was okay. But then it's just, I need to prove myself to this Dragonite to prove that I'm strong enough. where Dragonite never really had any form of hostility towards Ult. Just feels kind of strange that Ult's trying to prove himself to this Dragonite when it never was disobedient. I don't know, it just seems kind of odd to me. But I suppose that's all for Ult's team. I'm assuming he's probably going to get something else to match the 3 on each other person's team, but who knows? But the biggest thing with this main group is the evolutions happen too quickly. Now granted, Roy's team didn't really get much because Crocalor is the only thing that evolved. Lucario was already at its final stage. Kilowattrel was already at its final stage. But we had, I think, maybe a 5 or 6 episode, probably even less than that, gap between when Liko Hatterene evolves to Dot's Gimmighoul evolving. And it just feels like it happened too quickly. I understand it makes sense because for the big moment at the end where they're fighting off against the Explorers and everything like that, it doesn't really make sense to throw a Gimmighoul into battle. But at least try and space it out a little bit more, because there were stretches where nobody caught any new mons. I don't know, that's just my opinion. The evolutions happen a bit too quickly for me. I don't know if it's just my feeling. But as far as the other characters, Freed, he's fine. He still kind of feels like everybody worships the ground he walks on, and I suppose it makes sense since he founded the Rising Voltacklers. But it just kind of feels like he's, I don't know how to put this. It kind of feels like they're worshipping him as a god in some senses. Now granted, Ult kind of does, but that's more played for comedic effect. But I don't know. He's okay, I guess. I'm not as high on him as a lot of other people are. Pikachu is fine. They gotta have a Pikachu in the show. The Charizard's fine. Again, I like how they gave him Mega Charizard Y instead of X, because giving him X would be too obvious. And the Starmie, it's okay. I'm not really the hugest fan of it, and it's not because of Mega Starmie. It's just, the idea with Mega Evolution is that they only happen during the battle. But then when you see battles happening when it's, say, Roy versus Ult, for example, and then you see Starmie on the sidelines, Mega Evolved, acting as a judge. I don't think Mega Evolution works like that. Granted, it's the anime, they can do what they want, but I don't know, inconsistencies like that do kind of irk me in a way. But as far as the story, because I'm realizing I'm running a bit too long, but as far as the story, it's fine overall. The build up to it was fine, the conclusion is satisfying. I just don't like the steps it took to get there personally, and I'll try to explain it briefly. So my thing is, they started the 1 year gap, getting everybody back together, that's all fine. Then they go to try and rescue the 6 heroes. They fail. They go to Blueberry Academy. Time to train. Okay, we've trained for 3 episodes. Time to go back there, try and do everything all over again. We fail. Time to go to the Pokemon League to train again. It just feels like a lot of repeated things where we fail, time to train, we try to save the day again, we don't, go back to train. It just feels like a lot of repetitiveness, and I feel like they could have maybe slimmed a little bit more of it out or made it a little bit more streamlined instead of we go to try and take on the Explorers, we fail, time to go back to square one. It just feels like a little bit of rehashing in a way, but that's just my take. I don't know what they could have done to make it better. Maybe have the training arc be a little bit long. They could have spent more time at Blueberry Academy, to be fair, but for some reason they didn't. I don't know why. And then there's a bunch of other nitpicks, like at Blueberry Academy, Nemona battles for 1 episode and then leaves. I don't know. And then, I don't know, it just feels like they could have spent more time at Blueberry Academy. Especially since we've only really saw Lacey and Drayton, but then Amarys, Crispin, and especially Kieran didn't really do anything. And I'm still not fully happy on how they've shafted Arven in the story. They might do something with it later, but I don't know. I guess overall pacing is the biggest issue that I've had with Horizon so far. But at the same time, I don't know what they could have done differently rather than give Blueberry Academy its own dedicated arc for them to train a little bit more. Then it will be more understandable that Gimme Ghoul and Hattrem evolve quicker, because I'm pretty sure Gimme Ghoul only battled like 2 times. Once against Sinistcha, and then the second time in the Explorer's base. But I don't know. Overall, I would say it's fine, but I wouldn't say it was a masterpiece. The end of it was really good. But then we move on to this Wonder Voyage arc that's coming up. And I'm not sure how I feel about that either. There's a new character that has ties to a Ditto or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it is. But then we're diving into the mobile games, like a reference to Unite, a reference to Pokemon Go, a reference to Pokopia. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play out, but I've seen people online say that this new arc's poster reminds them of the Decalore Islands in Unova. And people did not like the Decalore Islands. But I'm going to keep it open, because even if it may be filler, they may still do something with new captures, new evolutions, new big things happening, because you could give Alton another Pokemon, for example. They could give everybody more Pokemon for all I know. But the problem is, I don't think any of the Mons on anybody's team can evolve right now, because all 3 starters are at their full stage. Kilowattrel's evolved, Dragonite's fully evolved, and see, that's the problem, because we're at this Wonder Voyage arc right now. If it's going to be filler, is Horizons ending soon? Is it not? Because if they have another big bad at the end of this, I don't know how they would do it. Because it seems like the Requiem is taken care of. So if they come back around and say, it's not actually taken care of now, it just kind of feels like everything that happened was wasted. But I think overall, those are my thoughts about it. Maybe I should have wrote a list out. If there's anything else I want to add, I suppose I could add it in here. But that's basically it. Let me know how you feel about Horizons at the moment. And I'm not sure how it's going to be moving forward. It could be good. It could be kind of subpar. But let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. And I'll see you next time. Momentai.